Extraordinary Night, a woman has a lot to say about the George Zimmerman trial, and star witness Rachel Jeantel in particular. In the chair tonight, Star Jones. She's a former homicide prosecutor and also the national spokesperson for the National Association of Professional Women. Star, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
It is such a contentious case, this. It really is a case, I think, dividing America, dividing Americans. Everyone has an opinion. Impossible to keep race out of it. But the evidence of Rachel Jeantel has been particularly controversial. You just heard Jay Cheney Mason there being pretty scathing about her, which many people have been. What is your reaction to the performance of that young black woman in a very difficult situation that she didn't really want to be in?
You know, I'm glad that you point out that this is a young woman who was in a difficult situation that she didn't want to be in. One thing that the previous guest said that I completely agree with is that as a prosecutor, you don't get to pick and choose who your witnesses are going to be. We don't get to pick and choose who our victims are going to be, who saw what, when they saw it, or where it took place. Rachel Jeantel happened to be the young woman on the phone with the victim of a homicide moments before he was killed. She didn't think that that was the last conversation she would have with Trayvon Martin. She was not thinking that she would be put on center stage and be made to look like, I don't want to use a word that upsets me, but made to look like an idiot, which is exactly what a lot of people have been calling her and using as a way to really blast her. And it really disappointed me, Piers, and I'll tell you why. When I saw Rachel Jeantel testify, I saw a 19-year-old woman from a background that may be different than the people who were judging her, that may be different from even the jurors who will evaluate her information and the evidence that she presented. As I learned more and more about her, I became curious. She has a Caribbean background, which has some of the sensibilities of, say, our Southern background. I was born in the South, and so I was raised in a similar fashion. These are traditions that we don't go away from, no matter how old we are. A Southern girl, a Caribbean girl, would never use foul language in the presence of somebody's mother under any circumstances. I'm 51 years old. I cannot tell you that I have ever used foul language in my mother's presence. And I know that she would look at me cross-eyed if I did. I would never use foul language to somebody else's mother. And so the thought that she was in some way being incredible when she left out the sort of language of a teenager talking back and forth to another teenager, and that would impact on her credibility, is incredulous to me. As a prosecutor, you take on the burden of making your witness relatable to the jury. And you make that witness relatable to the jury by letting the jury get to know who that person is. And you and I have talked several times about the need for diversity, and not just in juries, but in society. Because you can go your whole life as a white man and not encounter any of my real existence. You can go to work, you can go to church, you can go get your hair cut. You can do all things that make up a whole life. But I don't have that freedom as an African-American woman. If I want to live and work in the United States of America, I need to know as much as I can about you. And I don't have any issue with that. As a matter of fact, I think it makes me smarter and wiser, makes me more worldly. But if we don't have the opportunity for diversity around the table, you're going to get the kinds of comments you got about Rachel Jeantel. And it was distressing.
See, here's the thing, Star. Here's the thing. I found her oddly compelling and quite credible. But then I've got, you know, 3 teenage sons who talk in a completely different language to the one that I do, you know, and they operate in an entirely different world, and it's a different world to the one that Rachel's in. But I get the fact that teenagers generally, any of them that appear in court, would operate in a different manner to a fully mature adult. And she was clearly pretty unnerved by the experience, didn't really want to be there, and she'd lost one of her best friends in an appalling shooting. It didn't surprise me that she was the way she was.
It didn't surprise me that she came across sullen. It didn't surprise me that She didn't answer the questions in full sentences. She's 19 years old. In the lead, I have to say, I actually found more annoying the following day when she punctuated every sentence with "yes, sir." Because I found that to be more incredible. I like the fact that she stood her ground. She stuck to her story. She added the evidence that, as she recalled it. I did not think they shook her on any of the pertinent issues to the case. And what I really didn't like was the way women took her on. Not just women pundits, but women in the media, women on social media. I found it appalling that women would sort of mean girl her in terms of the way she looked, what she wore, what her weight was, how brown her skin was, how she wore her hair. I think that women, and you know in my position at NAPW, I shout this to the rooftops, women have to be supportive of other women. You don't have to believe everything that another woman says. But if you engage in the same sort of misogynistic tactics that men engage in, we are destined to always be thought of as the other gender.
Yeah, I completely agree.